Yeah, but we don't take the time to sort of know all the details. So even direct democracy has some problems. Oh, what? I can't believe I didn't vote for that. Oh, yeah, you did. Okay, and then of course we live in the world of propaganda where folks sort of trick us again into thinking certain things. And again, we also have this larger idea of the tyranny of the majority. Majority rules, but what happens if the majority are a bunch of dumb, which is one of the reasons, again, why we have the electoral college, though it doesn't always work out. And oftentimes, the tyranny of the majority can expand xenophobia, which is, again, the fear of anybody who's not you, religious repression. It's seen the recent protest about all the various religious laws and jeez, it's just crazy. Okay, but in any case, the big point of all of this stuff in this particular section on the dilemmas of democracy is on the bottom of page 72. My point, finally, with the above examples of democracy, even direct democracy has vulnerabilities. The expansion of democracy can be used as a tool for discriminatory majorities or wealthy business interests to violate the rights of minorities. When the general population is consulted on an issue without the opportunity to deliberate and without the correct information, direct democracy devolves into a public relations battle determined more by money than by protection of rights. Democratic space can be a tool for the majority to discriminate against minorities based upon religion, ethnicity, sex, and sexual orientation. Yeah. So that, though, helps him to move into deliberative democracy, which he's a big proponent of. But basically, it's getting people together and deliberating and trying to come to a consensus, this sort of basic small group communication theory. And if consensus is that you've talked about things and then everybody comes to agreement, right? Yes, we are all for this, which oftentimes is better than voting because, if you just vote, then you got 5 people, 3 people vote for it, 2 people don't. The majority rules, but yeah. Okay, so we're dealing with in this deliberate democracy. This is where the art of rhetoric really lives. It involves the art of public deliberation, public discussions, debates of ideas and issues. So dialogue, talking about things. And then the Occupy movement, he says, is sort of an example of that sort of deliberative process. I'll let you sort of read that. But basically, he's all for deliberation and trying to get to consensus. It's hard to do. It's arduous, but it's integral to democracy, he says. So, in light of his big sort of proponent, praising, he's a proponent of deliberation and consensus building. He says we need to make our democracy. So go ahead and make my day. Yeah. Democracy begins with you. No, not you. You. So he just gives these ideas about things that you can do to make democracy. You want to engage in consensus decision making. Get people together and talk and figure out how to talk. But try to reach a consensus. He talks about there's lots of things that you can read here, but and consensus building as a process can be very, very difficult, but I'll let you read. The second thing, he said, learn facilitation techniques instead of leadership techniques. All depends on what you see as a leader, but facilitator is supposed to help in the dialogue, to help people reach consensus, not to control the outcome. And he sort of sees oftentimes the leader of somebody who controls the outcome. There's lots of examples of, fake deliberation, and then the leader makes the decision. So he talks a lot about facilitating and how that oftentimes works, again, drawing from communication theory. Then he talks about, oftentimes breaking into smaller groups. If you have some sort of big old group, breaking a smaller group, it's easier to get consensus. How some of the caucuses work, I think. Other reasons for breaking into groups are to assign tasks or utilize expertise, be it a dance committee at school or an appropriateness committee in the appropriations committee in the U.S. Congress. That's why they have committees in Congress, and then it goes to the full body. Also want to break, one more reason to break into groups is that while consensus can be achieved on some issues, in other cases consensus may be impossible or even undesirable. So to avoid this, that is, we use a bludgeon to dominate dissenters. To avoid dominating dissenters, when subgroups of people strongly disagree on an issue, they should be free to maintain their autonomy. Okay. Talks about networking, sharing information, building solidarity. Going back to this idea of egalitarianism, but that means you got to network with other people. You can't be, what was that term, atomized, where you are all by yourself. That's not going to work. And so you got to work with others. That's it. There is no I in Team America. You might get that. Where is the atomized thing? It was in here someplace. Space of Democracy. But that's, I think, the whole point here is, you want to try, well, this is all about understanding what democracy is in the first place, where it comes from, and stuff like that, and the differences between different forms of democracy, direct, representational, deliberative, whatever. But he seems to be for, obviously, deliberative democracy and trying to reach consensus, and that in itself perhaps can create democracy. So what do we want? Democracy. When do we want it? Now. Do we have it? I don't know. What can you do? Try. And try again. Okay. Together, through the creation of democracy, we will make the world a better place. I'd like to buy the world a Diet Coke. See, that's propaganda right there. All right. Take care. Oh.